So, last time we finished an extremely hard quest on behalf of a group called the Trident. It literally was the hardest dungeon we had done yet, taking everything we had to complete it. And what was our reward for all of that hard work? We got to stare at an oversized egg. Just great. With each passing week we are trapped in this strange world, it becomes more apparent just how out of place we really are. I cannot wait to get back to Jurassic Park and attempt to rebuild it. So join us on Escaping Fantasy. To start week 6, I wanted to compile the spells I had collected from the dungeon we had done. The first of these new spells was Disintegrate, which was dangerous to learn but proved to be a pretty effective mid-tier fire spell. The next one was Ice Ball, which I found to be overall a bit underwhelming. The next two spells though were awesome. We had Summon Lightning Wraith and Mind Control that could make enemies fight for you. For my overall spell selection, it remained mostly the same, but I swapped Wither out with Mind Control, Freeze for Lightning Wraith, and Ignite for Disintegrate. While these spells would definitely give my power output a boon, that dungeon proved that I was nowhere near powerful enough for some of the threats in this world. Currently, I would struggle against many of the bigger monsters we had seen, like dragons. It was around here I decided I should look into that book with a face on it. The book spoke of different dimensions and two pantheons of gods. From reading the book, it was clear that there was great power there. However, there was also a great risk involved in the rituals required to obtain it, so I decided that for the time being I would hold off. Instead, I grabbed a book called The Origins of Darkness from my collection of books I'd collected on my travels. Now, this book was filled with many pure evil ideas, as well as many more mundane ones. From the book, I was able to learn that those weird temples of lasers I'd seen everywhere were in fact useful for controlling the weather and channeling it into powerful items. Further along, I can start to get some really useful and powerful items, but the cost for using them is blood. Yeah, I need to keep this book really far away from Martha. I decided to do some prep work before I could start this quest book properly. So I made 2 different enchanting tables in the library. You know, all this talk about blood has me thinking I could do something with mob traps. On a completely unrelated note, maybe I should start to expand the base of some villager houses, just to make it safer for the villagers. Totally. Unlike what we did with Jurassic Park, I actually wanted to make this place somewhat comfortable for villagers, giving them all dedicated houses to live in and places to work. This will take a lot of time to build, so in the meantime I would build an inn we could store them in. To begin with, I started clearing out some room down by where the river will be. I ended up building this little hill for the inn so that it would be sort of even with the higher area behind it. I actually really like how it turned out, and I think at this point I have a really solid style down for the base when it comes to the houses. I also will need to build a few bridges at some point to go over the river. As soon as I was done with the inn, I paid Martha a visit to give her a few lanterns. This is when I first got to see her new project.
Alright. Sure.
Oh. Oh my god, this is ridiculous. Are you... Muff, you can't even walk through!
Yeah, no. Go over it.
Are you able to eat the cheese?
Yeah, but they're in the chests, not the one that's on the floor.
Oh my god, Martha, this is ridiculous, even for you. I thought the eggs were bad enough. You've built a literal vault for cheese.
I mean...
I'm locking you in there, forget
I could do an egg vault as well.
Yeah, at this point for Martha, cheese had completely replaced eggs as her food obsession. She was producing it at such an alarming rate, she had to make a whole dedicated vault for it, which would quickly fill up itself. Frustrated with this, I decided to go back to the library and fill up some empty bookshelves. Unfortunately, I quickly found out that the bookshelves won't take magic spell books, which is a real shame because the dedicated bookshelves for those magic books don't look really amazing, to be honest. This meant that my idea of combining the library with the Electrobob's wizardry was on hold for the time being, and would likely get changed. For now though, I would definitely still store the wizards I found in the library, since the way I'd built the doors meant that the wizards wouldn't just walk out. I realised at this point I really needed a break from building and decision making, so instead I went exploring with the goal of collecting pure vampire blood so I could upgrade to Vampire Hunter level 6. On my travels, I came across a village with golems made from crafting tables that you could actually use. I also helped a different village get liberated from vampires. As a reward, one of the villagers sold me a block of gold for cheap, and it was made from cardboard. To be honest, I probably should have learnt my lesson from the last shady merchant at Jurassic Park. Either way, I will be coming back for them. After literal hours of looking for a vampire expert who could sell me pure blood directly, I gave up and just went into the vampire zone near our base. This place was truly hell, with there being dozens of vampires everywhere you looked and ghosts and other undead monsters. Also, a surprising amount of baby vampires. Eventually, I found my first vampire baron and got 1 pure blood from killing him. With this pure blood, I hit Vampire Hunter level 6 and unlocked the garlic diffuser. This is insanely useful as it prevents vampires from spawning. Currently, the one I have unlocked only works on a 1x1 chunk, but later it can be upgraded to work in a 3x3 chunk radius. While I was making the diffusers, I realised I only needed 1 more pure blood to level up again, so I went back to the vampire zone. Once I had leveled up to level 7, it was time to move the vampire hunter trainer. You see, he'd been living in the crafting house, which, to be honest, had sort of essentially become my own private house, as it was just in a really convenient location. I now moved him to the dedicated vampire hunter area in the castle, where he would be much better suited to staying. With the vampire hunter moved, I began getting the town ready by placing down the garlic diffusers and building a giant clock tower by the town square. I'm pretty happy that you can actually see the time on the clocks from a decently far away distance. I'm hoping you'll be able to see it from most of the town when the builds are eventually finished. Going to one of the weather temples, I threw some special containers at it and captured the power of lightning itself. Using this power, I crafted some lightning grenades. It seems that this mod is already paying off with powerful new equipment. I also made this eternal water bucket, which somehow took me a while to work out what it actually does, but I eventually realised it just lets you place down infinite amounts of water, which could be really useful for the river. After crafting an iron pick with fortune on it, I was able to craft the last item of this week, a ring that lets you see the dead spirits of mobs. Now I just need to find a way to trap them. But that's a job for next week, as I'm going to leave week 6 here. I am fully aware that this week is going to be substantially shorter than some of the previous weeks, and I do feel like this week is probably a bit less intense overall than the last couple. But hey, I think that we all need quieter, calmer weeks every now and again, especially with how much building we've been doing, and that we've been doing straight from Jurassic Park into this. It's just nice to have a calmer week. But the next few weeks I do have plenty of good things planned. So join us next time on Escaping Fantasy.